Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We will just wait for some time so that more people can join in and we will kick right off. Uh, Thanks so much to our guest speakers, Stephen Kallianos from SingleStore and ConveYour. I'm very happy to have you both here. Welcome. And thanks for all the attendees to joining in. So, welcome to our webinar, 6 Days to SingleStore ConveYour's Rockset Migration Journey. My name is Yukti Divedi and I'll be your moderator today. One of my main jobs here at SingleStore is to organize weekly AI webinars. We organize 2 or 3 webinars per week. We demonstrate different AI and data use cases, different tools and technologies, anything that's trending or in. So I also post about our upcoming webinars here and now. So if any of these topics are interesting to you, please feel free to connect with me to stay on top of the loop or anyone else from the team. I'll also like to hear your feedback or ideas on topics that you all would like to see in the future sessions. So please feel free to connect with me and drop a message on LinkedIn. And so speaking of future sessions, can you please just move to the next slide? We have amazing, informative new sessions that are coming up that are present on your screen right now. On 18th July, tomorrow, we have how to do full text search with SingleStore. The landing page is available on your screen. Just scan the QR code. It will take you directly over there. On 22nd July, we have SingleStore as the best operational DB for AI. If you are trying to make a Gen AI app, this is the webinar that you would like to attend. And on 24th July, build a text to SQL RAG pipeline with SingleStore and Easy Insights. So we have a guest speaker that's also coming in from Easy Insights with someone from SingleStore as well. So if any of these topics are interesting to you, please RSVP right now, and I hope to see you all there. If you can't attend the live sessions, it's absolutely fine. Just you can sign up right now, and we will, after the webinar, we'll send you a recording with the relevant assets, which is good with the session, and if there's any demo code or something. So coming back to today's topic, you're welcome to participate in the discussion throughout the session using the Zoom Q&A button, which is present at the bottom of your console. We have an internal mission statement to try to answer 100% of the audience questions, which sometimes gets a little difficult, but just make sure that you ask away your question because we're absolutely up to the challenge. And just make sure that you have logged into Zoom with your actual name and email address because we will not be answering any anonymous questions. Can you please move to the next slide? We will love you guys to have a dynamic experience during this webinar. So please feel free to try out SingleStore notebooks today. Anyone who tries it today will be entered for a chance to win either branded new AirPods or Meta's new Ray-Ban LLM smart glasses. It's absolutely the winner's choice. So simply click the link that's present on your screen. I will also put everything in the chat and log in. You may know that SingleStore has had a free trial offer for many years, but just in the past few weeks, we have also announced a new free share tier. So we might talk about a bit later today. So uh, just allow me to introduce our amazing speakers today. We have the real database experts joining us today. We have Stephen Rhyne, who is the CEO at ConveYour. So a little bit about ConveYour. ConveYour identifies and fixes hidden gaps in your seller onboarding process. It helps you drive more revenue per recruit. We're very happy to have you here as our speaker today. And joining us with him is also Stephen Kallianos from SingleStore. He's a senior manager of solution engineering. Very happy to have you here. And I think I can hand the mic to you now.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro. Just at a high level, what are we going to go through today? Obviously, we're going to be talking about getting to know ConveYour and Stephen's team, as well as their journey from Rockset to SingleStore, and then a little bit about SingleStore at the very end. So looking forward to today's conversation. So first and foremost, Stephen, thank you for joining us today. We've definitely gotten more engaged with one another over the last couple of weeks, so I'm really excited for this. But for all of our viewers today, could you give us a little bit of background on ConveYour, on yourself, so that we can set the stage from where you got engaged with Rockset all the way to your journey with SingleStore?
Yeah, so I've been the CEO and founder of ConveYour since about 2016, and we are a company that helps companies that need to recruit, onboard, train, and retain a lot of commonly the same role or a handful of roles, and they need to do that at scale. So we work with a lot of companies that are building big technician forces, field sales teams, anybody that, again, is really thinking about that motion of recruit, onboard, train, retain as a funnel And a lot of technical people on this call, I would describe it as, if you thought of something like a customer success platform like Intercom, it's the same stuff. So you're attracting a prospect, you're getting them into the system, and you're onboarding them, you're training them on your product, you're sending training, and then you're trying to retain them with messaging. So we do that same thing. And I would say, if what our customers like about our product is that it is basically full stack for applicant tracking, building out all of your automations for the recruiting process and the onboarding process, the e-sign and onboarding and collecting of information for a contractor, for example, micro-learning and training creation, and then ultimately retaining those reps by providing kind of exquisite field support in the field using text messaging. And so we kind of do all of those. And that is how we ended up needing Rockset and for some of our workloads, and then ultimately needing SingleStore.
Fantastic. So you walked us through at a very high level what you and the team focus on, but when it comes to data, you guys deal with a tremendous amount of data. You think about the number of employees that are engaging with all of the different modules. Can you just walk us through like some of the complexity when you're trying to attribute an individual user to all of the different assignments they've been given, and you're tracking their journey through the onboarding and the training process? I mean, it's a pretty heavy analytical lift, if you will.
It is. And in some ways, we did paint ourselves into a corner with the architecture, because some of the things we do are very unique to our space. So one of the things that's really, really important when you're a team of 3 or 4 in a training department, and you're onboarding and trying to keep 8,000 new reps in a year compliant, right, with training requirements, you have to make every decision fluidly. So everything has to be kind of automated. It has to be based on being able to tap into the previous behavior that rep had very quickly, and then kind of like chutes and ladders, right? So you need to have really high fidelity data on what the sales rep or the learner has done in their previous training experiences. And so what we decided, based off of a lot of MarTech type of products, was to build a giant kind of journal, an event feed of every single thing that we've done with that learner, with that rep. So unlike a typical LMS where you might have like pass fail, for a SCORM course or something like that, we have an event for probably 30 odd events for every single individual lesson experience, right? So there's started lesson, finished lesson item, answered question with exactly what the result was. And we just keep all that logging, and then we actually let our customers quickly say, make a group of everyone who finished this specific lesson and answered this poll this way, and then automate the release of a new training because they said on that poll that they weren't getting great results, or that they need more help in this area. So we thought that expressiveness and flexibility would be great for our customers, and it's proven to be a fantastic, unique ability of our tool. And you see this in other products like Intercom, for example. It's like, give me everybody that's been on this page and click this button, things like that. So we took those things and brought it down to a market that typically doesn't do that sort of thing. So that created a lot of data for each organization. You couldn't just use a covered index in an organization or like a tenant ID and say, okay, expressively search through all of these these events, tap into it any far back you want to go in Mongo. And we couldn't do that. We were getting really, really slow, slow results there. So that and tracking, making it so that they can add all their own custom fields on a profile, and then letting them combine those two. That's where the data really got challenging, where you could have umpteen amount of custom fields for a contact. They can send them to us via their API. And then on top of that, you're trying to blend people that have this cohort with this behavior. And that's where we got really into the weeds on the data.
Totally. So when you look at all of that complexity and bringing that aggregation down to the data layer and needing to return these results in a pretty fast SLA, That, I mean, really depicts on why you originally picked Rockset, right? Dynamic, schemaless, works well with APIs. Uh, it sounded like you had a wonderful experience until the recent acquisition, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So as we went through our engagement with SingleStore, now we can talk a little bit about your experience with SingleStore. What was important to you and the team? So as you know, OpenAI acquired Rockset, and one of the things that yourself and some of your cohort have really been focused on is we need to be able to get that performance we've become accustomed to. We want uh, like JSON to be a first class citizen. We want to be able to handle low latency writes. And of course, SQL to be able to handle the analytical components. So as you started this journey, can you tell us about the tweet that you sent out and your engagement with Jack Ellis, who is also a huge proponent of SingleStore?
Yeah, so I started my process. I wanted to do something, right when the news came out about Rockset. I kind of had a decision. I wasn't just gonna kind of be our own little island and work on this by ourselves. I started putting together a comparison matrix and putting that out on Twitter. Just putting down all the things that were really high priority, my wish list. And your team showed up almost immediately. That gave me some interest. And then Jack Ellis is actually, we use their product. So Fathom Analytics, I have a lot of respect for his company. And I was, perusing through the YouTube channel, your SingleStore YouTube channel, and I saw one of these, okay, where Jack was talking about it, and he was saying things like, yeah, I don't have to, I mean, I have an HTAP solution now. I have a solution that has both my workloads in one place. And that just was kind of amazing to hear. And so reached out to Jack. I think immediately your team kind of said, hey, I helped Jack. Okay. I helped Jack, and it was Saroon, right? And
Yeah.
so he's like, I helped Jack. Do you want to talk? And I was just floored with the amount of responsiveness and support that I was getting from the SingleStore team. And so what I really felt like, not only do I appreciate Jack's, I have a lot of confidence in his ability with the company he's grown. But it also, I just immediately could see the correlations between our workloads and his workloads. Specifically, I'm not going to wait as a customer. I'm not going to wait, 30 seconds for a report to load, or at least I'll go like, this is kind of janky, if it's loading that slow. And I want that experience. So being someone who's actually experienced his product, and our team has, I wanted that same experience for our product. I knew they're dealing with a lot more data than us. So yeah, that's what started it.
No, it's really awesome to see that maturation, because I believe on our first call, it was only a couple days after that tweet.
Yeah.
And to hear about all of the research that you had done in such a short period of time. Of course, what we're showing here is a little bit of that wish list, the feature matrix, some of the high priority items for you and the team, and some of the other vendors that you evaluated as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this is publicly facing, right?
Yeah, this is publicly facing. So I went through, the things I just had to have, moving to another system, and also just kind of recording some of the things I loved about Rockset and seeing if I could get those same things from another vendor. And as I was going through, I think the thing that stood out most when working with SingleStore, it was just a yes, like, yes, we have this, or yes, we're working on it. It was never like, yeah, kind of, partially, might have, if you do this, and so I didn't, with the time frame we have, I don't have a lot of time to do, our team doesn't have a lot of time to do mental gymnastics on figuring out like a format that's different. And especially in the things we care about, like, for example, this low latency. I can go through some of these if you want, Stephen.
Yeah, let's go for a couple.
Okay. So low latency streaming rights, for example, I didn't want our customers, in some use cases, are just looking for that, hey, this lesson transcript, this person finished it, they have to have this training done, or we lock them out of their point of sale system. and I have to confirm why they can't get into their point of sale system right now. And if there's latency there, then we've got support tickets. And so it has to be extremely fast. And I'm not going to wait for some batch process on S3 or something like that, where it's going to take forever to get those in. With Rockset, we had a direct, immediately streaming MongoDB changes directly to Rockset. And I was able to get that immediately with SingleStore through, on duplicate key, insert on duplicate key update, right, with MySQL. So very, 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 very familiar to do upserts and writes really quick. And what was amazing was, even in a columnar store that say had 50 million records, that insert is incredibly fast. The latency, we did a full notebook test on it. The latency on the SLA of insert and then read that same record back was like sub 50 milliseconds for us. This is wild. And then what really mattered for us to keep things, in parity was just being able to do, single row lookups, random single row lookups really fast. And I think I messaged you, like, what am I doing something wrong here? Because whether it was a memory table or a columnar table, the lookups were insanely fast. So we weren't going to have to do a bunch of merging or different engines that we have to crunch those down eventually, and then not knowing if that's happened or not. So that was those right there, low latency and upsert and incremental deletion are kind of like all three, something that you just nail. Nested JSON support you have with the derived columns and indexing that in various ways. We can index that, full text search on the JSON. This crazy fast performance, what I was not expecting was that your queries were faster than our Rockset with almost the same hardware size. They were faster with you, but then what was crazy is the subsequent request query with the cache plan, it would just like immediately, and then you're not caching data. That's what's crazy, is that you're not caching data, you're caching the plan. And then on top of, when I say crazy fast performance, I can just shut me up anytime you want me to stop, but
No, this is fantastic.
With crazy fast performance, that's not just, okay, how fast is this engine? It's, can I get crazy fast performance? That's different than crazy fast performance. So what that means is, if I have slow performance, I can find a way to get crazy fast performance. Your visual profiler is a perfect example. And that's a developer productivity tool that we didn't have in Rockset. There was one a little bit, but this one was just bananas. I mean, it breaks it all down. And so the capability of tweaking things to get fast and nail that query is there. SQL support, of course, it's so easy with MySQL, with that wire. Just the colon's a little different than the arrow. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I would, love to learn about that. And then mass update and deletion. You couldn't with Rockset for a while there. For many of these tools, you've got to do some backflips to get mass deletion done. And this is a select delete from command, not a insert with an operation to delete records that match anyway. So it's so much easier. Anyway, so I can keep going down the list. And then the thing that just the last one, okay, yeah. Strong business continuity. That I was almost done with looking at anything that wasn't open source after this Rockset ordeal. And when you all committed, publicly and met with me to discuss this and create a public commitment to business continuity, or change of control, like a change of control clause, that was incredible. So that really put my calm my fears around. Okay, I can work with this company. I have a Docker image I can do local development. So anyway, that's it.
No, that's fantastic. And thank you for going through each of those categories, because I think it's really important when you look at, this is your mission critical application for your business, right? You cannot afford to make too many concessions on any of these, right? Your customers expect real time. They expect being able to do all of these capabilities in the platform, and that's what you wanted to deliver. So I know we got into a little bit that of why SingleStore on the page, but I think just to highlight, right? You saw the low latency query performance. I mean, I know it's mind blowing. The first time I tried out SingleStore and I saw like how fast we were able to write and then retrieve that individual record, it was mind blowing. And then when you think of, it's not just the single row lookups, the complex analytics that you're able to achieve incredible performance on, and then leveraging features like the query plan cache, and of course our distributed nature that gives you unique capabilities to support both those transactions and the analytics.
Yeah, so I'll say right there, just to so people have a, our engineers on the call, right, have an idea of what we were dealing with. Think lots of like reference tables or tables that are common that you need to have in reporting, and then some very hot, very big collections. This is a common thing that I've seen. You've got a very, very large amount of contacts or user records, and then you've got a lot of data in a few kind of reporting, journaling type of use cases. And the complex queries, those were always very difficult. In fact, before Rockset, there was MySQL, and that didn't work. And so I really was expecting to have some, okay, I've got to start with SingleStore. I'm going to start having to do some roll-ups. I'm going to have to do some kind of materialized views. None. It was a one-to-one, same queries I had in Rockset. I was able to bring them over, and they're just faster. So, we're doing like, hey, I've got to get 15,000 contacts and then do a also events exist, subquery kind of thing. And it works and it's fast. And I'll move over here to this approachable and intuitive. I don't think that was all completely unexpected or wasn't on my list. For this migration, I knew, look, the last thing on my list is the developer experience, because it's for the customer and we'll wade through whatever we have to do. But then as I was using SingleStore, what I noticed was just how much more productive I was, like how much easy it is, how easy it was to do the evaluation, because the notebooks are built in, the pipelines are built in. And I was going, okay, this is going to be a much easier migration if I'm living in this all day. I just wasn't expecting how good the UX and documentation. We're excited to use SingleStore Kai. I've played with the HTTP interface. Very excited to use Kai, because that could mean one database to rule them all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So can I ask, as you're going through the evaluation of SingleStore, and now that you're a customer of SingleStore, how has this given you any ideas of expanding the footprint of what the database is going to do within your architecture? I know that you mentioned Kai, so could you elaborate on some of those other initiatives?
Yeah. So as before, right, we had MySQL for authentication and permissions and groups. We had Mongo for almost every other collection. We had Rockset for mirroring MongoDB data for analytical, OLAP workloads. And as it's kind of like your mind rules out the capability, it rules out even considering an option when it's not there. So for example, SingleStore, yeah, sure, they can do it all, sure. But then when you actually try it, it can actually do it. And so now we're going, okay, first thing we're going to do is move all authentication off of MySQL and put it directly into SingleStore. We don't have to ETL that stuff anymore at all. It's just same tables, right, that we're doing our analytical payloads. Then Mongo, it makes a lot of, like, we can use it. I mean, if people don't understand on this what Kai is, it's just a drop-in wire replacement for Mongo. The way the team has designed the schema, the table schema, is super clean. It's just like an ID, more BSON column, and you can put in, and it automatically creates the indexes, and you can create Mongo indexes directly from the console, and it just works. And I've yet to like dive a ton into that, but I'm very excited to say, hey, we could completely go off Mongo, don't have to manage replica sets anymore. It would be amazing. And then we already have AI pay, we were going to use Rockset for some of our, vector search. And, maybe we could talk about it a little bit later, but like, I just don't understand why people are using a separate vector store when you could have the same scope, same access topology, all of that in line, and then you're just adding a vector search on top of those existing, join queries or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot there. And, probably the coolest thing from my side as an SE is, empowering the developer to give you that flexibility. Because you're right, everyone has kind of pigeonholed themselves into this mentality of, I need a transactional system. I need maybe a NoSQL, maybe I need a vector, an OLAP, and they're all disparate. So yes, you're right. When we have the vision of one database to rule them all, but when we actually give you those capabilities, it's really cool to see it when the vision comes to light. Your comment about vector data stores is so true. I mean, having the vectors external to the rest of your data introduces latency. And if I can keep all of those together in the same table, the same database, I can gain a lot more insights from that information, whereas I previously wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you have very fluid access controls. So, can I give you one example? You've got a training portal. Our training portals are Snowflake. So what's in a learner's portal is completely based off of the automations that release specific experiences to them. So if you're trying to do a vector search, and you've got this incredibly expressive query that represents what content they should have in their portal. It's not, A or B or C. It's very fluid. You have to do a quick nexus of like what vector search you can actually do and what results you can actually pull back and keep the restrictive. So you have to keep the highest common denominator always moving target, and then add the vector search on top of that. And so if you haven't considered that, like it's just you're recreating a lot of stuff to get the same query.
Absolutely. So for the listeners on today's webinar and anybody that's watching, what guidance would you give the other developers out there that want to try SingleStore? They're in the similar position and they're like, hey, I have a couple months to find a replacement. What should I do?
Yeah, you think Rockset?
Could be coming off of Rockset, could be other solutions. I mean, maybe it's I watched the Jack Ellis vlog as well, and MySQL is no longer a good solution for my workload.
Yeah. Anything. Well, with the Rockset, I'll start with that. First, Rockset actually did a pretty good job on the insert into S3 functionality that they have. It was fairly easy to get an S3 integration set up on Rockset, and you just do an insert into select query and you can start pumping records. Now, granted, if you've got millions and millions, you're going to have to kind of do some pagination. They didn't handle that very well. We wrote a script, by the way, if anybody needs it, on how to do this, that we could open source. But anyway, getting the results into S3, and then surprisingly, SingleStore pipelines are just so easy to use. So they're just like kind of like a table. You just create a table, set up this little mapping. I love how you create them and then you get to start them and stop them. And you can do it all inside of a notebook. So that's what I'd suggest for people to do, is just get your data into S3. I had no challenges with the S3, it's going to chunk it into JSON-L, records. And then it just sucks it in. I had no like, oh, this one record broke situations like that. And that was the easiest way to get data in and start playing with a notebook in SingleStore, testing out queries and doing proof of concepts. And then again, if anybody else was using they've got their data somewhere else, I'd say S3. I know you have other ones like Kafka I haven't played with, but push into S3 and then sucking it into SingleStore was really easy.
Yeah. So from a data ingest perspective, we make that very easy. from a query perspective, I know that there was a little massaging that you had to do to make that work, but it wasn't too bad. And you were able to see even better performance than you were
Yeah.
on commensurate hardware.
I think too, the one thing that was a tiny little bit intimidating for me when I first came over to SingleStore was just the added, having to think about things like, okay, I've got a reference table, I've got a regular columnar, column store default engine, and then I've got a row table, or excuse me, row store. Okay, it's
Yep.
a row store. And so just learning those, and then learning a little bit more about the indexes that go with one of those, the sort key strategy for a column. It all only took about maybe a day or two to kind of just get their head wrapped around it. We put some documentation in. And I think that was the thing that I was just kind of whining about a little bit coming from another system, was that we didn't have to do as much of that with this other system. But once you learn it, everything you told me was true. So like when you told me to make it a reference table, because I had 10,000 records, and it's small, it's never going to grow past 1 million, and you just make it a reference table, it just gets faster. So the documentation, one thing is, documentation is not always true, because sometimes it's really old, and the documentation was actually right about everything. So if you lean on the documentation, and Squirrel is incredible. So Squirrel saved me a lot in the first, the Squirrel team. Good job, guys, because I learned a lot there. I would kind of do some kind of straw manning and steel manning in there around strategies, and it worked really well. So the support came not only from your team, and just incredible, like, personal support, but the support I felt like with Squirrel and the documentation and the ease of the application. That's why we're where we are now. So
Fantastic. And for those of you who don't know what Squirrel is, it is our RAG application that's trained on SingleStore's documentation, where I can go in, whether it's in the portal or on our website, and start asking questions about SingleStore, and it generates responses. So it's really helpful for both customers, prospects, and SEs, because there are times where I too have to look up documentation. But all right. So the one last question that I have about the SingleStore vision is, what are some things that you would like to see as continued areas of development from SingleStore and our engineers?
yeah, so I would say, my wish list moving beyond just our initial requirements is really, really good support. We talked about it, right? Really good support for local Mongo. So for testing that out, because that's a big lift, and we'd love to see Kai, have happy to be a guinea pig in that area. But to see Kai really show up on that Docker image so we can test it, that's just kind of I want that. And then I would really love to see y'all use your own AI capabilities to help us highlight, because you're cloud service, you could help us highlight suggestions for improving queries, right? That would be incredible as a developer tool. That goes beyond just doing the thing of being incredibly fast, and that goes beyond, like, that's a new value creation, I think, that you could provide a lot, which is, hey, we suggest that you tweak this query, or this one's going, that sort of thing. The branching I haven't played with, but I really want to experience that and play with branching. That's pretty wild. And I right now I don't have a huge wish list. I think that you have way more than I've been able to bite off. So that's where I'm at, kind of.
That's fantastic. And we've certainly really enjoyed working with you and the team. You guys are just great. And I love the feedback from developers, right? Because you are on the ground, hands on keys every day with the technology, and your feedback is, the most important to us and the team. So I will, mention to everyone on the call, when it comes to migrating off of Rockset, for all existing Rockset customers, SingleStore fully supports fully paid POCs, where you get to work with one of the 40 field engineers that are located all around the world on helping you evaluate SingleStore. In addition to that, SingleStore will cover any migration off of Rockset onto SingleStore. And then As Stephen knows, he was able to meet our fearless leader, Raj Verma. When it comes to that business continuity and security, we've publicly stated that in the event SingleStore has an event like Rockset and is acquired, we will not close source our technology, and we will make that available to everyone. So,
Which is amazing. It
yeah,
was really amazing. That was like all of my I want this for the sake of for our team and the speed. All of the logic and the business logic lined up once that was announced. So
yeah. So we have a SingleStore Rockset landing page that we can provide the link to that has access to blogs that me and my team have written around. I'm doing X today in Rockset. How do I do this in SingleStore? Maybe I'm leveraging query lambdas. How can I have a working solution in SingleStore? Or I'm worried about moving my data from DynamoDB into SingleStore. How do I make the two talk? We have all of that resource outlined for you, as well as the code that you could follow in your own proof of concept. And of course, if you need any of the field engineers, you have access to us. There's a link that'll put a meeting on my calendar and my team's calendar, and we'd be ready to hop on at any moment in time. With that, I do want to open it up to see if we have any questions from the audience for myself or for Stephen. Let's see.
We actually have two questions for you.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So one question is from Bala Subramanian. They say that how can I manage all the information you have provided today and benefit from the time that you have spent here? So I think we can just reiterate on what exactly is the takeaway message and to get this question answered.
Sure. I think if we were to boil this down, Stephen and the team were in a position where they had to find a solution to move off of Rockset. And in the matter of days, the ConveYour team was able to evaluate SingleStore, choose SingleStore, and begin deploying SingleStore. So, and it came down to a couple key attributes. There were things that the team needed, and SingleStore was able to provide. We were right alongside of them the entire way. We gave them the full support of SingleStore as a business unit and helped them be successful. And that's the kind of effort that every one of our customers will receive.
I couldn't
Alright.
believe how fast your response was. I mean, I'd ask a question, I get a response back within an hour or two, or less. I'm holding you, you know, I'm mad about that one where it was like an hour and 2 minutes. No, but yeah, so fast. And so that's kind of wild. I was actually, I'll just say this, I was pretty inspired as a CEO to work with SingleStore initially, as seeing a company that's executing at such a high level on the technical side, but also as a team. It's pretty rare, especially if you're in bootstrap SaaS, or if you're a company that has maybe, just say this, experienced like the last couple of years, maybe you know, previous SaaS companies that were really focused on just giving away everything, and then they kind of like tighten the purse and less support, less meetings, less ability to do customer success. That's what we experienced. And what was so wild about, you know, initially working with SingleStore for our onboarding was that it was just a exact opposite of that. And we had been experiencing that for quite some time. And it was just really refreshing, Stephen.
Yeah. Thank you. I know that the team really appreciates that. Cool. Do we, what was the other question?
Has been extremely kind to us. Like that's so nice to hear, honestly. Like, thank you so much for bringing that up. We actually have one more question if you want to take that up.
Go for it.
So one more question from Akshay. They say that it follows asset properties, ACID.
Yep.
So, and what about OLTP and distributed data?
Yeah, so if we look at the value that SingleStore is bringing to the market, it's a data platform that allows you to transact, analyze, and what we call contextualize your data without having to move it. The backbone of SingleStore is our patented technology that's called universal storage. It's the column store that Stephen was mentioning. And through the three-tiered storage architecture and our universal storage table, We allow our users to transact and analyze their data without having to move it. We don't need disparate databases. We don't need lengthy ETL jobs. I write it once, and now I can access it across my entire application. And I'd be happy to talk more at length about that subject if you want to go to the website now and schedule a meeting with one of your field engineers.
Yeah, and to add to that, the first thing I looked at when I looked at Kai as even a possibility for us to use was a specific thing in Mongo called find and modify, which is that you have an atomic update and retrieval of a single record. And guess what? It's supported. So to be able to do that, you have to have the underlying capability of these kind of ACID transactions.
Yeah, fantastic. Any other questions?
As of now, we don't have any other questions. So everyone, if you have questions that you would like to take offline, like I understand like a lot of questions can't be taken up live. So regarding your database structure, anything, you can just feel free to email at us team@singlestore.com. So our team will be happy to assist you guys. Just feel free to drop in any message to anyone. I think we will get you all started. And I think we don't have any other questions. Actually, there's one question I would like to ask. So I have attended some events, and one of the most the most asked question that I get, like, so I'm not really qualified to answer that, but I get like, what's the under the hood of OLTP plus OLAP? So a lot of people are very intrigued, like, hey, how are you exactly doing this? And that's the reason we actually came to you. So if you can just talk about that, that seems like a very, a brought up topic to me. So just let me know, like, what's your thoughts on that?
Sure. And I think it just really comes back to the universal storage table. The way that this is working is I'm taking the best attributes that you would find in a row store and a column store and putting it together. So if I'm thinking of what a transactional and OLTP style workload is going to need, fast writes and fast reads. But if I think of what am I going to need from an analytical standpoint, I want the preeminent scan performance. Let me comb through all of my data to produce the result to the end user. And universal storage does both of that in a single table type. So we have what we call a memory first architecture where all transactions are committed in memory, thus immediately available to my end user. But in the background, what we're doing is we're taking that data that's committed in memory and we're flushing it down onto disk where it's highly compressed and stored. We also take the advantage of an object storage where we offload everything that is much cheaper, and it gives us a separation of storage from compute. Now, the benefit of doing it this way is the data is formatted in a columnar format. And it's highly compressed, thus giving us the ability to have that preeminent scan performance all with fast writes. So you can do your transactions and your analytics all without having to move your data.
That
And
sounds
there's a 4-part series on the website.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
like it breaks it down in ridiculous amount of detail. Again, not it's patented, but patented doesn't mean I won't tell you about it, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, long, in-depth articles about how it works.
Fantastic.
That sounds very interesting. So if we don't have any other questions, we can wrap this up. If like you want to take something up, just let me know.
Yeah, no, the last thing I'll say is, Stephen, thank you very much for your time today and your partnership. This has been so much fun, and I look forward to all the cool stuff that we're going to continue building together.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Yakti.
We actually have one more question that suddenly came in. So
Yeah,
we have some time. Is it okay that we take it up?
I can stay on, sure.
Yeah. So everyone just feel free to drop in any questions that you might have. We still have 10-15 more minutes. So the question says that, as you said, I think it's a follow-up to the previous question. As you said that that is low latency. If you have big tables like 2 or 3 TBs, how
Mhm.
fast the data will be delivered to the customer for reading purposes or like just to generate a report? So just let me know what's like your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think this is analogous to what Stephen was saying when he was writing records into the universal storage and being able to see the records within 50 milliseconds. Now, given that we're dealing with a little bit larger data sets with, much into the terabytes, you're going to see analogous performance. It might be on the order of 100 milliseconds, but it will still be sub-second near real time.
Right, sounds good. So if we don't have any more questions, we can go forward and conclude the session. I think that's fine, right? So can you just go back to the raffle slide and the upcoming webinar slides? I think it's next only.
Yeah. Oops. Let's go back to, all right, the upcoming webinar.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Stephen, for joining. And this was a really amazing session. I see more questions coming in. So, I mean,
I've got
It's
time
okay.
too.
Yeah, I got
like,
time. I can
this
stay
is
on, but
absolutely,
also,
I mean, like, this is, they just keep on trickling in. This is what's happening.
Great.
So,
yeah, sometimes the best questions come to you right when everyone's logging off. So.
absolutely. So, just I'll just complete this thing. It's just like for anyone that joined late, our future sessions are coming up, and we are presenting tomorrow how to do full text search on July 22nd, SingleStore as best operational DB for AI. And on July 24th, we have built a text to SQL rack pipeline with SingleStore and easy insights. The QR code is on your landing page. Feel free to just head over to our landing pages and register to our upcoming events. Guru, we are just taking your question, and just stay tuned for that. So the question says, we are using SingleStore DB with Redis for our application. When we did load testing without Redis, there was a performance issue observed, and we continued to use Redis. So what is your suggestion? I mean, what do you think might have happened there?
Uh, it's kind of tough to tell without seeing the workload itself. So I'd be more than happy to jump on a quick call and we can troubleshoot that.
Right. I'm actually, Mr. Dutt, I'm actually writing an email to you. Please feel free to reach out to the team on that email and just mention this webinar in the title, and our team will definitely assist you
I
with
want to
that.
say one other thing too. In the
Right, right.
evaluation process, we experienced one thing, which is I'm going to probably totally mess this up, okay? But it's the blob cache being warmed up. And when you're in evaluation purposes, you're dropping your instance, okay, your workspace. If you're shutting it down, bringing it back up, sometimes we experienced, right, if we didn't have that warmed up and we weren't keeping it on, there's a way to kind of warm up the blob cache. And as soon as we did that, we weren't having the issues that we were having on some very simple queries. So that's something Stephen recommended to me. He gave me like a whole like notebook on how to do it, and we have it in there. And now it doesn't happen once you're in production because you typically running the workspace 744. So yeah,
Exactly.
All right, that sounds really good. Thank you so much for chiming in, because this comes when you are saying this, it feels very nice because it's coming directly from someone who's having like a hands-on experience. So
yeah.
this is really, really cool. So I think we can then just announce the raffle winner that everyone's been waiting for. So
Sure.
for everyone that joined late, if you can just go to the next slide, we announced the raffle that we were doing today. So anyone who tries out SingleStore along with this webinar and made an account, so they are eligible to be entered to win at least AirPods Pro or Meta's new Ray-Ban LLM smart glasses. It's absolutely the winner's choice, and we will announce one more winner by the end of the session or end of the day. If you have logged in and if you have made an account, it just takes 10 seconds. So I have the winner for today. The raffle for today goes to Rachit Pandey, who's a cloud operations manager at MasterCard. Thanks for joining, Rachit. And if that is not you, we are now going to announce one more AirPods winner. Just you can still log in, and it will be announced at the end of the day. And I want to thank Stephen for today's presentation and demo. Thank you so much for joining. It really means a lot to us. And thanks everyone that has attended live. We really value your time and energy. And Take care. Good evening. Have a great rest of the day wherever you are. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.